Roma Wines present
Suspense.
Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
Salud. Your health, senor.
Roma Wines toast the world. The wine for your table is Roma Wine, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is the Man in Black, here for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California, to introduce this weekly half hour of Suspense. Tonight from Hollywood, Roma Wines bring you Miss Michelle Morgan, Mr. Philip Dorn, and Mr. George Coulouris in a suspense play dealing with a painting of a beautiful woman, a lover, and a husband, and with an assassination for which only the death of one of these three could atone. And so with Portrait Without a Face, and with the performances of Michelle Morgan as Colette, of Philip Dorn as the artist Paul Degel, and of George Coulouris as Charles Garbeau, we again hope to keep you in suspense. It was just twilight as she came out of the cathedral on Fifth Avenue and stood for a moment on the north steps. She looked across 51st Street at the discreet gray building with a discreet bronze sign saying Ferney Gallery of Modern Art. A richly dressed couple came out of the gallery, and the doorman called a taxi. Surely it was safe now. The crowds must be gone. She hurried across the street.
Good evening. The gallery's still open for a few minutes, isn't it?
Well, I'm sorry, miss. It's just closing up now.
Oh, you can't be. I've come all the way from Boston, and
Well, I'm sorry, miss. We're half an hour past closing now. We open again at 11 tomorrow.
11? But I can't possibly wait over. Do you think $5 would...
No, miss.
I could even go as high as 10.
No, miss.
I could even go as high as...
No, miss.
Oh, but there's a picture on exhibit that I must see. I'd stay only a moment. I must see it, really. It's called...
I know, miss. It's called Portrait Without a Face. Half of New York was in to see it today, and the other half will be in tomorrow. And if you'll excuse me now...
Wait a moment, please. Have you seen the picture?
Me? What did I be doing looking at pictures? Waste of time. But I can tell you this. Sure got people talking. One of those critics was in here this morning, and you... Hey, hold on, miss. Maybe you can go in after all. You see that man coming down from Madison Avenue? That's Paul Degel, the artist who painted the picture. Now, maybe if you would ask him...
Degel? Oh, no. No, thank you. I've changed my mind. I'll come back some other time. Taxi! Taxi!
Some women like to drive you crazy. Evening, Mr. Degel.
Hello, John. How are you?
Thank you, fine.
Is the exhibit driving people away? That woman seemed to be in an awful hurry.
Huh? She was trying to get in, sir. In fact, she offered me $5
What?
She offered me $5 if I'd let her in, and then she raised it to 10.
Wait. She offered you money? Did she want to see Portrait Without a Face?
That and nothing else, sir. She was pretty insistent about it, too. She must have known about your work in France, Mr. Degel. Had quite a foreign accent.
Foreign accent, you said. John, is Mr. Ferney in?
Well, yes, sir, he is. He's in the back. There's some men with him.
Good. I want to see those men. I want to see them immediately. Gentlemen.
Paul.
Gentlemen, the woman we were looking for was here tonight.
Really?
Oh. Yes, I'm sure of it. I missed her only by a moment. With every brush stroke I made on this canvas, I knew I was bringing her into our hands. I knew she would have to see that portrait. She had to know how much I knew. I know, gentlemen, she will be back.
Paul?
Yes, Henry?
Will you still have the courage to finish the job when the time comes?
When the time comes, I'll kill with as little conscience as I would shoot down the Nazis who have taken France. That portrait is without a face, gentlemen, because I couldn't see her face. But she will return and supply that feature. Then we will know her for what she is. She will be back. I'll stake my life on it.
Tonight, for Suspense, Roma Wines bring you as stars Michelle Morgan and Philip Dorn with George Coulouris. You have heard them in the prologue of Louis Pelletier's story, Portrait Without a Face, which is tonight's adventure in Suspense.
During this intermission of tonight's suspense drama presented by Roma Wines, let us picture a scene in the fashionable restaurant El Patio in Havana, Cuba. From the next table, we hear a Cuban judge of fine wines describe in glowing terms the wonderful climate and soil of our own California. When his American guest points out that his Cuban host has never been to the United States, the Cuban answers, "It is true, I've never visited your California, but from only such perfect wine country could come sherry of such superb quality as we have enjoyed. Roma, California sherry." Yes, by their example, wine connoisseurs of many other lands tell you that in Roma wines are all the great qualities that must be present in a wine for great enjoyment. It's for this reason these wine experts of other lands import Roma wines from great distances to be enjoyed as a rare luxury. But for you, this luxury of other lands becomes a daily pleasure, because you can enjoy any of Roma wine's many different, taste-appealing wine types without additional charge for import duties and expensive shipment from great distance. These two great Roma wine features, superb quality and small cost, have made Roma wines America's largest selling wines. Why put off another day your enjoyment of this splendid quality, such thrilling taste appeal? I'll spell out the name for you. R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
And now it is with pleasure that we bring back to our soundstage Michelle Morgan, Philip Dorn, and George Coulouris in Portrait Without a Face, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Where have you been, Colette?
For a walk, Charles, along Fifth Avenue. I needed a breath of air.
You're lying. You're at the Ferney Gallery.
Then I'm lying. I was at the Ferney Gallery.
You fool. I told you that they'd kill you once they're sure.
Yes, you told me, Charles. I'm going to bed.
Did you see the picture?
I'm going to bed, Charles.
Answer my question.
No, I didn't see it.
What, the gallery was closed?
Yes?
Ah, that's good. Good. Well, drink?
No, thank you.
Don't mind if I do.
I haven't minded what you do since the second week of our marriage, Charles.
Really? Oh, that distresses me. Oh, Colette,
Yes?
before you go to bed, there's something here I want you to read.
What is it, Charles?
This art magazine, my dear, that just came on the newsstands today, contains a charming series of reviews of the exhibit at the Ferney Gallery. René Lautrec, the French critic, has done a little piece on the picture that you're so anxious to see. He heads his review, The Murderers. Read it.
Please,
Read
Charles.
it. It'll satisfy your curiosity once and for all. Begin here. This portrait.
This portrait without a face is no ordinary canvas. This is a portrait of a crime. A crime etched on the mind of a man who must have been there to see it happen. One cannot describe the portrait in words. Only in action. This way. The artist is sitting in a darkened room, resting from the noise of a party upstairs in the big house.
Yes, the reception for General Vauban, Paris, 1939. Go on.
The artist is resting in the darkened room. Suddenly there are two shots. The sliding doors to the library open. Standing in the doorway is the silhouette of a woman in evening dress. Charles, I
Give it to me. The woman's back is towards the artist. He doesn't see her face. At the woman's feet is a hand outstretched. The hand of a dead man. Who is the man, Colette?
Vauban. General Vauban's dead.
All this happens in an instant. The picture is photographed on the brain of the artist. A woman in evening dress standing in a doorway, her back turned. That is, portrait without a face. Colette, it's time to move boldly. Paul Degel will have to be put out of the way now. He knows enough to be dangerous. I suppose it's somewhat of a pity to eliminate such a promising young artist. He might have gone places. However, tomorrow morning, you will telephone Paul Degel at his apartment. You will tell him you saw his name in the art magazine. You will ask him where he's been all these years. You will say that you must see him. Your voice, and it will tremble just a little, will convey a message he's been waiting to hear all these years. You love him. After all these years, you still love him.
Hello? Yes. This is Paul Dugel. Colette. Darling, where are you? Where are you? Yes. Naturally, every day. Every moment. Of course. Anywhere you say.
Then the Carlton?
The Carlton. What time? 1 or 2?
2. Then at 2 o'clock, dear. Till then...
Yes, till then. I'm so happy, Colette. Goodbye. Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, Paul.
Oh, that was very convincing, my dear. So much sentiment in your voice. See that it doesn't affect your actions. It's your life or his, Colette.
So you've told me.
Well, remember it. Stand up. Let me have a look at you. Oh, yes. Oh, you're crying, Colette. How touching. The lovers parted. The lovers reunited. April in Paris. Chestnuts in blossom.
Charles, please.
Wouldn't he love to know you married me? Me, of all people. And how I'd love to see you two meet. Colette, what will you say to him? What can you say, Colette?
What can I say, Paul?
Nothing for a moment. Just let me look at you.
With Monsieur Odenau?
No, not yet. Not just yet. Yes, wait. Bring us 2 sherries, will you?
Thank you, monsieur.
I'm changed, Paul. You can see that.
A little. A deepness around the eyes, perhaps. You've been unhappy, Colette.
Yes.
I wrote to you almost every day for a year.
I couldn't answer, Paul.
Colette, why did you run away?
Oh, you mustn't ask me.
Was there anyone?
No one in my heart. No one ever to fill your place.
I thought when you didn't come back that...
Oh, darling. You were right to think anything of me.
I thought of Charles Gavot. I remembered how insane he was about you.
Please, Paul, don't talk about Charles.
I thought if she ever married Gavot, then... I'm sorry. There's so much I don't know about your life. 4 years.
Oh, I knew everything about you.
Yeah. Press notices. I wanted to be a success. For you, Colette.
I followed everything you did. The prison camp, I remember that. When you escaped to this country, your first exhibit here. I have all the clippings. Oh, I was so happy for you, Paul. I was so glad they believed in you as I did.
Yes, they have been good to me in this country. Very good to me. More than I deserve.
No, not more. Only you're just you. I know. I've read the reviews of the exhibit at the Ferney Gallery.
Yes, they seem to like that.
Paul, I want to see that exhibit.
Of course, Colette. Anytime.
No, not any time. I want you to show it to me tonight.
Tonight?
Please, Paul. After the crowds have gone from the gallery, my first look at your work in so many years, I don't want to share it with anyone. I just want there to be you and I.
Well, then that's how you shall have it. Darling, of course, I want you to see it. I want you to see every piece in the exhibit. There is one that has attracted considerable attention. Portrait without a face.
Oh, yes. I read about that one.
There is much of my life in that painting, Colette. Certainly much of the past 4 years.
But your work on it has been so worthwhile.
No, not entirely. Not just yet. Colette, do you remember the death of General Vauban?
Vauban? That was sometime in 1940, wasn't it?
1939. The year you left Paris.
Oh, yes, that's right.
As you recall, Vauban was our greatest advocate of air power. There were people in Paris who hated Vauban and wanted him out of the way. Your friend Charles Gavot and his newspapers were the general's bitterest enemies. And do you know a curious thing, Colette?
What, Paul?
Some of the best people in France were duped by Cavot's newspapers into believing that Vauban was an arch criminal.
Yes, I remember.
Briefly, some deluded woman fancied herself a modern Joan of Arc and killed Vauban, thinking she was saving her country.
A woman? But they say the crime was never solved.
It wasn't, but it will be, I think, very soon. Yes, I'm sure that... Forgive me, darling. I hadn't meant to burden you with this.
Oh, it is yourself you must not burden, Paul. You have given this matter much of your life. Much of your thought, haven't you?
All of my thought, Colette. When I wasn't thinking of you.
Or painting.
Painting? When I was painting, I thought of you most. I think that in every picture there was something of you. Sometimes the light on your hair. Sometimes the way you hold your hand.
Even in Portrait Without a Face? Is there something of me in that one?
In that one?
2 sherries, monsieur.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, Colette. I think that even in that one there's something of you. And it's very strange because you... Well, anyway, tonight you'll see for yourself. To you, darling.
To our reunion, Paul.
To our reunion. That's what she said, gentlemen. To our reunion.
And I wonder if...
You are sure, Paul, that she does not suspect?
Positive. She is utterly convinced that I am as blindly infatuated with her as ever. She is convinced that in my blindness I shall step out upon the stage she has set for me. We shall see who has set the stage. We shall see who portrays the victim.
It will take courage, Paul.
Perhaps.
There are not many who have your kind of courage.
No, there are not many who have my kind of hate, or who have waited so long to spend it. But have no fear, gentlemen. You will see that I do not fail. You will be with me tonight. All of you.
With you? I do not understand.
I should have said you will be present in the wings just off the stage. It's just 10 now. In less than an hour, my guests will arrive. Before long, you will come into this room to see the portrait. The room will be quite dark. You will be in the background. There will be no way to recognize
You haven't much time. Are you ready?
Yes.
Wait, which purse are you carrying?
That black one on the table.
Hand it to me. Good. Just the right size. Oh, don't look so wide-eyed and innocent. You've seen a pistol loaded before?
Charles, couldn't we?
Perhaps it would be best for me to have a look in on you and Degel this evening.
Oh, please, Charles.
How do I know that you'll do what you're told?
Well, you said it was his life or mine.
But you're a sentimental fool. You might...
I'll do what I'm told.
Very well. Remember, I'll be waiting across the street on the cathedral steps. I'll give you till 11 o'clock. If you're not out at 11...
I'll be out.
Yes. Yes, you'd better be. It's ready to fire. Here's your purse. The pistol, you see? On top. Watch out when you pay the cab fare.
Yes, Charles.
I'll be waiting for you on the cathedral steps. And you have till 11 o'clock.
Do you remember this picture, Colette?
Oh, Paul, of course. That was the summer we were at Nice.
Lovely summer, wasn't it?
Oh, so lovely.
You see the fishing boat? L'Hirondelle? Remember her?
Oh, too well. She made me seasick once. But it was a beautiful summer, Paul. Wonderful summer.
Yes. Yes, it was. Well, that's all of the Paris pictures. Now I guess you would like to see the portrait.
Yes. Now, I'd like to see it.
It's in the next room. They have given it a room by itself.
Oh.
Take my hand, Colette. I've kept the lights out in there. I want you to sit on the bench, then I'll turn the lights on. And you will see the picture as I saw it. I mean, in my mind's eye.
Yes, Paul.
This way. No, careful. 2 steps down. You are trembling, Colette.
I've always been afraid of the dark.
Here's the bench. Sit here. No. Sit here. You're in front of the picture now. I'm going to turn on the light.
Hurry, Paul. I don't like this.
I just want to give you the full effect of it. Are you watching? Straight ahead.
Yes, Paul.
So, may I present then my portrait without a face?
Paul! Oh, Paul.
I thought you would find it effective. Now we'll put aside pretense. You know who that woman is. She's Colette, standing in the doorway of General Vauban's library. The hand of the dead man at her feet is the hand of General Vauban, my friend. That blood on the floor is the blood of Vauban. The blood that is touching the evening slipper of Colette.
Stop it, Paul. Stop it.
I've waited a long time for you, Colette. 4 years. I said then that I would make someone pay for the murder of General Vauban. We have a committee, Colette. We formed it back there in Paris in the dark days just before the war broke out. The committee knows everything about the people who planned the death of Vauban. The committee knows who did the murder itself. Settling with that person has been my special assignment.
I have been your special assignment. Your special prize. Is that what you mean?
That's what I mean.
Oh, I don't care, really. Not now.
You cared enough to want to fight back. You came here armed. Oh, no. Don't open your purse. I took the trouble to remove the pistol while you were taking off your coat. No, not this one in my right hand. That's mine. This one. This pistol here. It is yours, isn't it?
Yes.
French make. Did Charles give it to you?
Charles?
Yes, Charles. I knew you married Charles. I found it out just before I lost track of you 2 years ago. I knew you married Charles, and I knew why.
And you told me this afternoon.
Yes, I made you believe that I didn't know about Charles. I want you to come up here to the gallery. I knew you had to come here to find out how much I knew.
Charles was right. He said it was your life or mine.
He's very clever, Charles. Do you remember when you first met him? I warned you away.
I remember.
You were impressed by Charles and his politically wise friends. But you didn't know that Charles had sold out his country.
I didn't know.
You had duped him to believing that Vauban was a traitor. Charles dominated your mind. He controlled you as an hypnotist. They needed someone to murder Vauban, so you were chosen. You were to be the savior of France. You exulted in the role and you believed it.
Yes, up to the very last. Up to the last moment. Then I didn't see how I could go through with it. I couldn't bear the thought of killing a man.
You're lying, Colette.
No, Paul, no, listen to me. I stood there looking at Vauban, the pistol in my hand. He looked up. He started walking toward me, telling me to give him the pistol. I felt dizzy. Oh, I wanted to run away to... But I raised the pistol. There were 2 shots. And he fell at my feet. I dropped the gun.
Then you opened the library door to escape.
Yes. I ran out on the terrace and through the garden. I ran blindly and fell. Then I felt a strong pair of arms lift me up. Charles was there.
You told him you had killed Vauban.
Yes, I begged him to take me away to... I needed someone desperately. He promised me to take me out of France and let me forget. Oh, Paul. Paul, turn out the light on that horrible picture, please.
The light stays on, Colette. I want you to keep looking at the picture. That picture was painted for a purpose. And now the purpose is going to be fulfilled.
Paul, will you believe that I didn't want to kill Vauban? 4
years I've waited, Colette. Now it works out according to plan.
I didn't want to kill a man. I didn't want to go away with Charles, but I was in too deep. Paul, listen to me. I've loved you, always. You must know that.
After tonight? After you're coming here to kill me?
Open my gun, Paul. Open it up. You'll see that it's empty. I took the shells out on my way here. Oh, why don't you do it, Paul? It's true. I knew I couldn't go through with it. Not this time. Not with you. Paul.
It's too late, Colette.
Paul.
Keep sitting on that bench, Colette. Keep looking at the picture. Don't move.
I won't, but you must believe me. Paul, Paul, wait!
Just look at the picture, Colette. The picture.
Listen. Please listen. I'm telling the truth, Paul. My gun wasn't loaded. Listen, Paul!
For you, Deschelles.
It's you, mister!
He's all right. Paul, are you all right?
Oh. Yes. I'm all right, gentlemen. Gentlemen, may I present the late Monsieur Charles Gaveau. 4 years. 4 years of painting and planning and waiting.
Paul, take me out of here.
Yes, darling. Colette, I'm sorry I had to do this to you. It was the only way to find him. I knew he was here to kill again. Both of us.
Charles?
Charles killed Vauban. I picked up the pistol you dropped that night, Colette. It had never been fired. Charles was never certain you would have the nerve to go through with it. At the last moment, he took a hand himself. The shots that killed Vauban were fired from the terrace. In your terror, you believed that you did it. Charles let you believe it all these years.
Oh, Paul.
I knew he would follow you here tonight. I left the door open for him. He came downstairs when we entered his room. He could hear us talking. I wanted him to hear. I needed time, Colette. Colette, I'm sorry. That was the only way to meet him face to face.
Oh, Paul. Don't ever leave me. Never leave me.
Never, Colette. We are together now. For always. But before we go, there's one thing left. You see this knife? For us, that is the end of Portrait Without a Face.
And so closes Portrait Without a Face, starring Michelle Morgan, Philip Dorn, and George Coulouris. Tonight's tale of Suspense. Miss Morgan is currently being seen in Warner Brothers' Passage to Marseille. Mr. Dorn appeared through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of Madame Curie.
You know, if we could bring to this microphone a man typical of all Roma wine dealers, this is what he might tell you.
I sell a lot of the good Roma wines. They are, you know, America's largest selling wines. My Roma wine customers, I've noticed, are sociable people who enjoy entertaining friends. Talking with me, they give a lot of credit for the success of their entertaining to the enjoyable Roma wines they serve. They're thrifty people, too, these buyers of Roma wines. What else could offer so much enjoyment for so little cost? Only pennies a glass by actual check.
Now, that doesn't leave much for me to add, except this, perhaps. If you are not already one of the millions enjoying Roma wines regularly, make your own taste test of any of Roma wine's many different taste-delighting California wine types, such as the delicious, tangy Roma Sherry, or the hearty Roma Burgundy, or the sweeter, heavier Roma Port. And discover for yourself why Roma wines are winning international praise. Voiced in this phrase, Roma wines are truly magnificent. Let me repeat the name. R-O-M-A, Roma wines. Made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
Suspense is produced and directed by William Spear. Don't forget, then, next Thursday for Alan Ladd in Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System. Roma Wines present Suspense. Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
Salud.
Your health, senor. Roma Wines toast the world. The wine for your table is Roma Wine, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is the Man in Black, here to introduce this weekly half hour of Suspense. Tonight from Hollywood, we bring you as star Mr. Alan Ladd. In the character Mr. Ladd assumes with us tonight, he reveals the thoughts and through them the dramatic story of a young man on trial for the crime of murder. But before we take you to the scene of our drama, let's imagine ourselves for a moment in flower-garlanded Bermuda.
Seated on the terrace of the exclusive Coral Beach and Tennis Club, a party of Bermudians and Americans are taking turns, each paying compliments to the delights of the other's native land. An American has just praised the famed Easter lilies of Bermuda. Then a Bermudian tops him with something like this. Among great American delights, he says, one of my favorites is right here on our table. It's this splendid wine we're all enjoying. Bermuda imports it from the justly renowned wine districts of California. It is your internationally esteemed Roma wine. Yes, and Americans themselves have certainly not overlooked the great and enjoyable qualities of these fine Roma wines. Proof is, Roma wines are America's largest selling wines. Such outstanding popularity must mean here are wines that are more taste-delighting, more satisfying in their richness and fine wine quality. Yet with all that as your reward for specifying Roma wines, you'll be amazed and delighted to hear your dealer say Roma wines cost only pennies a glass. That's because here in America you pay no high import duty or long voyage shipping charges for these fine Roma California wines. So why put off this taste treat another day? Be sure to ask for R-O-M-A, Roma wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
And now, with the defense rests, and with the performance of our star, Alan Ladd, as defendant Robert Tasker, supported by John McIntyre as the noted criminal lawyer, Max Krager, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
The People versus Robert Tasker. The defendant charged under the indictment with murder in the first degree.
Is counsel for the defense prepared to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
Very well, Mr. Krager.
Your Honor, if the court please, I think it's fitting that for a moment I should speak openly to Your Honor and to the jury of the matter which has, albeit indirectly, nonetheless a substantial bearing on this case. I refer, of course, to the rather unique relationship existing between myself and the defendant, Robert Tasker. It's true that my interest in him and in his fate is far greater than the normal interest of a lawyer and his client. It's true that that interest might reasonably be described, as it has been so many times, as fatherly. And yet I ask Your Honor and the gentlemen of the jury to think of me in all fairness and without bias, simply as a lawyer defending his client. It needs no expatiation on legal or practical ethics to demonstrate that I did not believe in my
My name is Robert Tasker. I'm sitting in a courtroom on trial for murder. As Mr. Krager, my lawyer, stands there now telling the judge and the jury about me and about him, I can't help thinking that if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here today. And thinking what irony it is, too. Because Mr. Krager is the only friend I've ever had in the world. I'm an ex-con. My sentence was for 10 years. After I'd been there about a year, I began to write just short stories, little things. I had lots of time. Finally, I sent one to a magazine. They published it. Mr. Krager happened to read it. He wrote to me. Then he came to see me. He remembered my case, and he said he'd try to help me. Then one day, I was called to the warden's office.
Hello, Robert.
Hello, Mr. Krager.
Robert, I've got some good news for you. I've got your parole. You're free. Well, you happy?
Oh, sure, it's just that I still don't quite believe it.
Well, it's official, Tasker. Here are your papers.
Papers. That'll make everything easy, won't it, Warden? Passport to a brilliant future. Ex-con.
Well, Robert, I know it's going to be a little hard to adjust at first, but there's a job in my office that I would like...
Thanks, Mr. Krieger. But I don't want charity. Even from you.
It isn't charity, Robert. I need a clerk in my office, or I wouldn't have offered you the job. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, but you'll be doing me a favor if you try it.
Well, I guess I owe you at least one favor.
Well, Tasker, goodbye and good luck. Just remember that what's happened up here is water over the dam. Don't hold any grudges.
I don't hold any grudges, Warden. There's one man I hate, that's all.
A man you hate, Robert?
Now, what's the use of kidding about it? His name is Arthur Hines, and I hate him. Simple as that.
Well, forget it, son. Hines was DA then. He was just doing a job, that's all. He had nothing against you.
Yeah, he was doing a job, all right.
Robert, you mustn't feel that way. You'll get along with Hines all right.
Get along with him?
In the office. Didn't I tell you? Arthur Hines is my new partner.
Well, it certainly threw me for a second to hear I was going to work side by side with that. But, well, I figured they were right and that I shouldn't hold grudges, and I made up my mind to play ball. The work wasn't hard, and I was able to do some writing on the side. Mr. Krieger always encouraged me in that, and Peggy helped me a lot, too. She helped me to believe in myself. All that time, I never saw Mr. Hines. He was out of town or something. And then one day he came back. I was nervous at the idea of seeing him, but I thought I was over my resentment then. He was in his office with someone. He'd come in the private entrance. I was out in the other room with Peggy by the switchboard when I heard the commotion.
You're going to give it to me. No, don't you understand the English language? No. You're a liar. Now, you get out of here. Get out.
Don't give me that, Hines. You've either got it or you
I
know
don't know
who
anything
has.
about it, and I don't want to know. Don't you think I got enough trouble nowadays keeping mugs like you out of the pen without being a fence for what you stole? Now, you get out of this office and stay out.
Okay, but I'll be back.
$50,000 is a lot of money. Well, what do you want?
Why,
Robert works here, Mr. Hines.
my name's Robert Tasker. Didn't Mr. Krieger tell you about me?
I knew I'd seen you before. You're that punk kid I sent up to San Quentin. That was for 10 years. What do you mean you're working here?
Well, Mr. Krieger got me out. He gave me a job.
Job of what? Snooping outside my office?
I wasn't.
Don't talk back to me, you dirty little jail rat.
Why, you?
Robert, don't!
Come on, let me go.
Hey, what's the trouble here?
Come on, let me go.
Stop it. Now, calm down. What's the matter?
What's the idea of bringing this kid into the office, Max? Isn't it bad enough to have to work with criminals all day?
Robert's not a criminal. He's here because I want him to be here. Because I believe in him and trust him.
Oh, yeah?
You don't still have anything against Robert, do you?
Well, I just don't like anybody hanging around outside my door when I'm having a private conference, that's all.
Now, look. Robert Tasker is one of the finest, most gifted young people I've ever known. I want him to get along here. And I want him to get along with you, too, Arthur. See?
Well, me, I can get along with anybody. Well, I got to be in court.
Wait a minute. Now, shake hands, both of you, will you?
Well, anything to keep peace in the family.
That's fine. Everything forgotten. Start off on a clean slate, right?
Sure. Well, I'll see you later in the afternoon, Max.
Robert, come into my office for a minute, will you?
Sure.
Boy, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know how to begin to apologize.
Why should you apologize?
Well, it was all my fault. I don't know how I could have been stupid enough not to tell him beforehand, for both your sakes.
I know, but I just don't like him, and he doesn't like me.
No, Robert, you're wrong there. It's just that things have been happening lately to upset him. Like this fellow Marvin and his $50,000.
You know about that?
Well, Robert, you know, we have to deal with some peculiar people in this business. There's a poor fellow who's been in prison himself for the last 5 years. He had quite a lot of money when he went in. Oh, he stole it, I guess.
And he thinks Hines hijacked it on him, huh?
If he ever really had it. He says he left it with a pal of his, and later the pal was killed in a gunfight. Gallucci, you remember the case.
Yeah, I remember something about it.
Anyway, just before he died, he told somebody he'd left the money with Hines. That's how the story goes. You know how those things travel on the grapevine. It's all nonsense, of course.
That guy meant business just the same.
It probably explains the whole thing. Hines was a little scared. But don't let it worry you, Robert. You will stay, won't you? Believe me, it's for the best.
Well, I've got to trust somebody, I guess.
Trust me, Robert. I've never given you bums, dear, have I?
No. Okay.
That's the spirit. And any other little troubles, you just bring them to me, see?
Thanks. Well, I guess I better relieve Peggy on the board.
Keep your chin up, kid.
Sure. I'm sorry I kept you waiting, Peg.
That's all right.
Hey, Peggy, what's the matter?
Please, don't say anything.
Oh, but Peggy, what is it?
Robert, I'm scared.
Of what, Hines? Don't be silly.
No, it's not him.
Well, what is it?
Robert, I shouldn't. But I've got to tell someone.
Well, sure you have. All right, now take it easy. What is it?
I've never told anyone before. Neither Mr. Hines nor Mr. Krager know. I'd die if they did. You wouldn't tell anyone, would you?
Well, of course I won't. Come on, spill it.
You saw that man who was in here, who was arguing with Mr. Hines about the $50,000?
Yeah?
Well, it's true. There is $50,000 somewhere.
Yeah? Well, how do you know all this?
I know, and I'm scared. Robert, he's a killer.
That guy? Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but how do you know?
Because he's my own brother.
I had a hunch to lam out of there right then. I knew something was going to happen. But I hated to run out on Peggy when she was in a jam and might need help, and I didn't want to let Mr. Krager down either. So I stayed. And one day, about 2 weeks later, it came. I hadn't had any more trouble with Hines. He was out of town most of the time anyway. He was still out of town that day. The day that he died.
Krager and Hines. I'm sorry he's out of town. You might try later this afternoon. Yes, I'll tell Mr. Hines.
Say, Peggy.
Uh-huh.
Do you know when Mr. Krager will be in?
He didn't say. He's still over in the court on... Harry.
Where is he?
Who?
You know who, Hines.
Oh, Harry, I told you not to come. I begged you not to.
Sure. Always a little pal. Always a... Hey, wait a minute. What does this guy know?
I told him that you were my brother. But nobody else knows, Harry.
Sure. Okay. What do I care? I only care about one thing.
But you promised, Harry. You promised...
Where's Hines?
I don't know. He's out.
Then I'll wait till he comes back.
Harry, you mustn't.
I'm staying. I'll get it out of him.
Harry, your sister says you should leave.
You keep out of this, punk.
I don't like that word, pal.
Robert, listen. Will you watch the board for a few minutes?
Sure, it's lunchtime anyway.
Harry, I've got some things I want to talk over with you privately.
Yeah? What things?
About Hines and... Well, you know. Come on, we'll go downstairs to the grill in the lobby.
You wouldn't be trying to ease me out of here, would you?
No, honest, I've got to talk to you, Harry. Come on.
Okay. And listen, pal.
Yeah?
If Mr. Hines comes in, you tell him I was here. And tell him he better come across or else.
Is that all?
Well, that's enough, ain't it? You know what I mean. Plenty.
Sure. Krager, Hines.
Hello, Robert. This is Max Krager.
Oh, yes, Mr. Krager.
You there all alone? Peggy out to lunch, huh?
Yes, she is.
Well, that can't be helped. I'm in a hurry. Now, I'll tell you what I want you to do.
Yes, sir?
I'm across the street in the courthouse, Judge Andrews' court, the Ellsworth case. Now, there are some notes I've got to have over here right away. They're in my own handwriting, pencil, and clearly marked Ellsworth.
Yes, sir.
Now, you'll find them in Mr. Hines' office. The pages are all clipped together. I don't know exactly where in his office. It may be on his desk. It may be in one of the drawers or in the file or under the blotter. But keep looking, see? Keep looking until you find it.
All right, sir.
And then bring it over to me right away.
Yes, sir.
Got it? I'll be waiting for you.
I left the switchboard and went into Mr. Hines' office. I started looking around for the notes. I looked everywhere, the desk drawers, the filing cabinet. I even tried to look in the safe, but it was locked. Then I noticed some yellow papers on top of the bookcase. I reached up and took them down. I was standing there with my back to the private entrance, looking the papers over to be sure that they were the right ones.
What are you doing in here?
Mr. Krager wants some papers, Mr. Hines.
I thought I told you to stay away from my office. What are you snooping around in here for?
Well, Mr. Krager told me to look in here for them.
Something mighty funny going on around this office.
Oh, there's nothing funny. Mr. Krager
I'd say
said...
there is. What's the switchboard girl doing sneaking around the lobby with Harry Marvin? Tried to duck me, but I saw him.
First the switchboard girl turns out to have a crazy ex-convict for a boyfriend, and now I find...
That's a lie. He's her brother.
Her brother? Oh, so that's it.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that, Mr. Hines. I don't know anything about it, really.
You don't, huh? Well, I do. I get it now. I knew there was something, and all of a sudden I get it.
Mr. Hines, there's nothing to get.
So the girl and her brother go down to the lobby and set themselves an alibi, because they know I'll suspect them. Then they get you to do their dirty work for a nice fat cut, I suppose. That's what you think.
Please, Mr. Hines, don't talk that way.
Well, you didn't find it, did you? And you won't. Now get out of here, you little punk, before...
I said don't talk that way.
Why, you dirty, thieving little stirp...
I told you not to talk that way. He fell and just lay there. For a minute, I didn't know what to do. Then I knew I'd have to tell Mr. Krager. I knew I was all washed up there anyway. I couldn't very well expect a man even like Mr. Krager to choose between his law partner and me. And I couldn't stay in the same office with Mr. Hines after what had happened. But somehow I wanted to tell Mr. Krager myself before anyone else did. I went out to the switchboard and dialed the courthouse number.
Judge Andrews' court, Johnson speaking.
I want to speak to Mr. Max Krager. This is his office calling.
Well, I don't see him around here right now. The court's in recess.
Oh, I know, but try to locate him, will you? It's important.
Okay. Hold the line.
I sat there, waiting for them to find Mr. Krager. All of a sudden, I remembered the papers he wanted. I cut off the call on the switchboard. Had to take the papers over to him anyway, and I thought I might as well go over and give him the papers and tell him what had happened then, and I'll get it over with. I was starting for the front door of the office. Then I heard a sound from Mr. Hines' office behind me. At first, I thought he was just coming to, and I kept going. And something sort of clicked in my mind, and I stopped. That sound hadn't seemed quite right for a man just coming to. I listened, but I didn't hear anything more, and that didn't seem quite natural either. I went back and opened the door to Mr. Hines' office. He was lying there just as I'd left him, and yet there was something different. I went over and looked at him more closely. His face was a terrible gray color. I touched his wrist, feeling for his pulse. Next thing I knew, I was down on my knees, tearing open his collar, but even then I knew it wasn't any use. Mr. Hines was dead. I don't know how long I stood there in that room. Might have been hours, it might have been only a couple of minutes. I just stood there, my mind dazed, and yet at the same time racing through 1,000 half-formed plots and schemes of escape, of what I could say, of some way out of it. Then the switchboard began to buzz with an incoming call. It sort of brought me to my senses, and more out of a habit than anything else, I went out to answer it. Krager and Hines.
Robert, you still there?
Mr. Krager,
Where are those notes? Haven't you found them yet?
Yeah, I found them all right.
Well, bring them over here. I need them right away.
Mr. Krager,
Robert, what's the matter with you?
I just killed Mr. Hines.
You're just making it hard for yourself, Tasker.
I've told you what happened.
You're in a pig's eye you have.
Well, I don't have to talk if I don't want to.
Oh, no?
I'm waiting for Mr. Krager. I told you that.
Krager, what do you think he's going to do for you?
I don't know.
Well, I do. He's going to see that you burn. That's what he's going to do for you.
Maybe.
What do you expect? You kill a man's law partner right in his own office. And you think he's going to help you? Are you crazy?
No, he told me he'd come down.
Sure, of course he'll come down. To give evidence against you. Now, listen, Tasker. If you give a full confession, we may be able to get you a break.
Mr. Krager's outside, Captain. He wants to see you.
Sure, send him in.
Okay, Mr. Krager.
Thank you. Hi, boys.
Hello, Mr. Krager.
Hello, Robert.
Hello, Mr. Krager.
They've been treating you all right?
Pretty good.
Fine. I don't like to have people get rough with my clients.
You're what?
You heard me, Captain. While you're at it, you might as well take those handcuffs off him, because from this moment he's out on bond, released in my custody. I've got the papers right here.
Say, are you crazy?
Certainly not. I simply don't believe the boy did it, that's all.
Well, I'll be... All right, Hawkshaw. Who do you think did it?
That, Captain, is your department. My job is simply to defend an innocent man.
Look, Krager, don't try to kid us. It's an open and shut case. Tasker's the only person who had the opportunity, the only one who had a motive.
Mm-hmm.
Well?
Not to speak ill of the dead, Captain, and although Arthur Hines was my law partner, it's unfortunately true that quite a number of people at least thought they had a motive.
Sure, so maybe this ex-con Harry Marvin had a motive. Maybe even the dame on the switchboard had a motive for all I know. But they couldn't have done it. 50 people saw him together downstairs in the lobby of the building at the time the murder was committed.
Oh, you've talked to him, have you?
Sure, so what? Listen, this kid admits he had a quarrel with Hines. He always hated him anyway. He admits he hit him. So he picks the paperweight off the desk and smashes him over the head.
Wait a minute. You didn't say anything about that, Robert.
No, I didn't even know about it before. I didn't hit him with a paperweight.
Stop it, will you? The back of the man's head is bashed in with that paperweight. This kid's fingerprints are all over it. What's so funny? This is murder, mister.
I'm sorry, but you'll find out if you ever try to bring this boy to trial for killing Arthur Hines with a paperweight.
Listen, Krager, I know you're pretty smart, and I know you go around bragging about you never lost a case.
And that goes for this one. Double.
But you're not going to make a chump out of me. This boy's going to be indicted for murder. He's going to be convicted of murder. And he's going to burn for murder.
Indicted, convicted, burned. 3 promises. And the first one's already happened. The second one, well, even I can see we don't stand much chance. And the third one, well, I just try not to think about it. There is Mr. Krager, up before that jury, acting as though it was an absolute certainty that I'd be cleared. Pleading for me as though I were the only guy in the world. Because, well, that's the kind of a man he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my firm conviction that when you've heard this boy's story from his own lips, and when through it you have in some measure, as I have in large measure, gained insight into the depth and integrity of his character and spirit, you will also believe him innocent. He is innocent. Now, Robert, I'll ask you to take the stand.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Now, Robert, just for the record, will you tell the court your full name?
Robert Loring Tasker.
Your age?
24.
Your mother and father are dead. You have no living relatives.
No. No one.
Now, before you begin your story, there are 1 or 2 extremely important points that I particularly wish to emphasize to the court. Now, tell me, Robert, how long was it between the time you quarreled with Mr. Hines and the time you went back into his office and found him dead?
Not long. 6 or 7 minutes, perhaps.
But it was long enough for someone to have entered Mr. Hines' office by the back entrance, struck him, and left again, was it not?
Yes, it was long enough for that to have happened.
Now, concerning this famous paperweight the prosecution has talked about so much, I have it here. Do you recognize it?
Yes, it was always on Mr. Hines' desk.
Now, when you went into his office at my order to look for certain papers, you touched this paperweight, did you not?
Yes, I touched just about everything on the desk.
Exactly. In other words, your fingerprints would be found not only on this paperweight, but on practically everything else in the room.
Yes, they would.
In due course, Your Honor, we shall demonstrate that such is, in fact, precisely the case. Now, Robert, when Mr. Hines found you in his room, he was irate and highly suspicious, was he not?
Yes, he was.
In fact, he even suspected that there was some plot against him involving Peggy, the switchboard girl, and a client of his named Harry Marvin.
Yes, he did.
You denied this, saying that, in fact, they were brother and sister.
Yes, That's right. How is that again?
I say you denied the charge of a plot, saying that Peggy and Harry Marvin were brother and sister. And then Mr.
Your
Hines
Honor.
went so far as to...
Your Honor.
Yes?
Your Honor, there's something I've just thought of, some new evidence. I'd like a few minutes alone with my lawyer, please.
Well, if counsel has no objection.
Robert, what is it?
It's just something that I think I ought to tell you in private.
Very well. Your Honor, please, then.
By all means. Perhaps you would like to use my chambers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Come along, Robert. Well, you didn't have to lock the door, Robert.
Well, I want it to be private.
All right, but Robert, you mustn't worry like this. Let me do the worrying. They can't convict you if there's a reasonable doubt. That's the law, and there is a reasonable doubt. Someone did come in and hit Hines in those 6 or 7 minutes. It must have been that way.
Yeah, I know.
Of course you do. We've been over the whole thing. Now let's go back into that courtroom and continue.
Mr. Krieger, there's something I haven't told you.
Something you haven't told me. What?
Oh, it's a little thing, but it's kind of important. Because it's something I never told anyone.
Well, what is it?
I never told anyone that Peggy was Harry Marvin's sister, except Mr. Hines by mistake, and he's dead.
Now, Robert, don't you think that's a little trivial to be bringing
No,
up?
because you know about it. You just said so in the courtroom.
Well,
There's only one way you could have found out. You must have been in your office when I had the fight with Hines and heard me tell him.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, no, it isn't. Because you're right. Somebody did come in those 6 or 7 minutes and kill Hines. You did.
Well, you're crazy.
Must have been for that $50,000. You hijacked the hijacker. And you knew they'd pin it on me with my record. Maybe that's why you got me out of the pen in the first place. It is, isn't it?
I'm not going to stay here and listen to any such nonsense.
Oh, yes, you are. Because I'm going to get that truth out of you now. You planned it that way, didn't you? You sent me into Hines' office that day, and you probably sent him, and you figured you were such a hot lawyer that you might even get me off with 20 years or so to ease your dirty conscience, didn't you? Talk, Krieger.
Don't get anywhere using violence with me.
No, talk.
No, now, wait a minute. Even if I did confess, it wouldn't hold up as evidence.
Talk.
No. Listen. We'll postpone the trial. I can get you out of the country. I'll give you money.
That's all I wanted to know. Now, come on,
No.
talk.
No.
You did it. You killed him. Talk. That's where you were. I phoned at the court. I couldn't find you. Right? You were killing Hines, weren't you?
Yes, I did it. I killed him, but...
Okay, I guess we can unlock that door now.
What's going on in here?
Robbie, he's crazy. He attacked me.
So I gather.
He accused me of murder.
Yes, I heard him. Tell me, Krieger, where were you when this boy phoned you here at court, when they couldn't find you?
Why, as a matter of fact, I was right here, right in this very room. I had some work to do. I wanted... Your court was in recess. You were out of town.
Yes, I know. But there's something you don't know.
What?
On the day of the murder, the floor of this room was being repainted. And the paint, Mr. Krieger, was quite wet.
Your Honor, the defense rests.
And so closes The Defense Rests, starring Alan Ladd, tonight's tale of Suspense. Alan Ladd appeared through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, producers of Lady in the Dark. John McIntyre played lawyer Max Krieger. Before Mr. Ladd returns to our microphone, here is a definition of yourself that may interest you.
Connoisseur, one competent to act as a critical judge of an art or in a matter of taste. That's what Webster says. So that makes you a wine connoisseur, because certainly you are competent to act as a critical judge of a wine's taste. Matter of fact, all you have to know to be a true wine connoisseur, in the opinion of your friends and guests, is a single word: Roma, R-O-M-A. To get the proof, make your own taste test of the tangy, appetizing Roma Sherry, the hearty, satisfying Roma Burgundy, the heavier, sweeter Roma Port, or any of the many different delicious Roma California wines. If your favorite dealer is temporarily out of the kind of Roma wine you prefer, ask for it again, please. Just be sure to say R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is Alan Ladd. It was a pleasure to make another appearance on this program, which is a great favorite of mine. Next week, they tell me Laird Krieger will be your star. And I know you'll want to be listening, as I will. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Ladd. Suspense is produced and directed by William Spear. Tonight's play was written by Roland Brown and Robert L. Richards. Don't forget, then, next Monday for Laird Krieger in Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System. Roma Wines present
Suspense.
Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
Salud. Your health, senor.
Roma Wines toast the world. The wine for your table is Roma Wine, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is the Man in Black, here for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California, to introduce this weekly half hour of Suspense. Tonight from Hollywood, Roma Wines bring you Mr. Laird Krieger in a suspense play dealing with a maniacal hatred and with the mental drug of hypnotics. And so with narrative about Clarence, and with the performance of Laird Krieger, supported by Hans Conried as Bill, from whom we hear the narrative, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
I never wanted to kill anyone. Not till he came along. I didn't even want to kill him at first. I kept thinking there must be some other way. If anybody had told me 6 months ago that I was capable of murder, I would have thought he was crazy. What I'm getting at is this. There are circumstances, people, that can make anybody want to commit murder. And he was one of those people. He brought the circumstances with him, a whole set of them. I never heard of the guy till one day last summer. We were having breakfast. My wife was looking over the morning mail.
Bill, look at this. Postmarked Calcutta. It must be from Clarence.
Who's Clarence?
He's my brother.
You never told me you had a brother.
Didn't I? Well, it's not so surprising. He's only my half-brother, and I haven't seen him since I was a child. He's never even written to me before.
That's funny. Wonder why I decided to write now.
I can't imagine.
Well, what does he say?
He's coming to America.
What for?
Now, Bill, don't be like that.
Well, you're not going to ask him to stay with us, are you?
Oh, what else can I do? He says he's coming straight here from the boat.
Well, so what? There are several first-class hotels in this town.
Well, I'll just ask him kind of half-heartedly so he can refuse if he wants to.
Good girl.
There's just one thing that worries me.
What's that?
He says at the end of the letter, I'm most anxious to meet your daughter, who it has been revealed to me closely resembles her grandmother.
Well, Jeannie does look like the pictures of your mother at that.
But how does he know? He couldn't even know we have a child. Unless...
Unless what?
Well, unless someone told him, or... unless it was revealed to him in some mysterious way.
I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. If there's anything I hate, it's a fake. And if that guy with his wing collar and his high-toned accent didn't look like a fake, then nobody ever did. But he wasn't a fake. He didn't arrive at our house. He seemed to materialize in the middle of the living room.
Well, Lillian, don't you recognize me?
Why, yes, Clarence. How are you, Clarence? This is Bill, my husband.
I know. I hope you'll forgive my rather unconventional entrance. As your doorbell is out of order, I didn't bother to push the button.
Oh, hello. I didn't know the doorbell was out of order, Lillian.
Neither did I. Well, won't you sit down, Clarence?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Have a good trip?
Excellent. But let's not dwell on the past. I have plans, Lillian. First of all, I intend to settle here in this town, permanently.
How nice.
I intend to resume my career in America where it left off 15 years ago.
Oh.
Your wife's look of distress, William, is owing to an unfortunate incident that occurred 15 years ago and made it expedient for me to leave the country for a while.
It was all a misunderstanding, Bill.
I don't quite know what you're talking about.
She's told you nothing about me? How strange.
Well, only that you're a doctor and that...
Doctor? What an inadequate word. It suggests a little man you call in when the baby gets whooping cough, doesn't it?
Well, what's the matter with the little man I call in when the baby gets whooping cough?
Well, he is, shall we say, limited. Yes, that's the kindly word for it. The mind, William, the human mind, with all its strange powers for good and evil. That is my province.
Clarence was a mental scientist. He had a small private hospital.
Oh, how drab. How unendurably drab you make it sound, Lillian. I penetrated deep into the mysteries of the human mind. And then I discovered a psychic power transcending the mere gray matter of the human brain.
Clarence became interested in the occult.
You mean that Indian faker stuff, going into trances and stuff like that?
How crudely you put it, William.
I'm sorry. Go on with your story.
Well,
I'll go on with it for you. You started using this mysterious East hocus-pocus on your mental patients, and their relatives got sore, right?
Your husband, Lillian, is a man of rare perception.
Yeah. And now you're back from India with a new bag of tricks, and you're going to set up shop again.
Precisely, William. There's only one thing wrong with your statement, the tone of it. I intend to establish a small private sanitarium dedicated to the treatment of the mentally ill. And I shall continue my investigations into what your wife chooses to call the occult. Is that clear?
Quite clear.
Now then, Lillian, you will prepare the little room off William's study for me, the one with the dark green walls.
Well, of course, you're welcome to stay with us if you want to, Clarence, but the house is rather small and...
Yes. It's fortunate that the house is small. I'd counted on that.
You seem to have counted on a great deal, Clarence. By the way, how'd you know that the room has green walls?
Yes, and how did you know...
My dear engaging kinsman, all things are revealed to him who can survive the ordeal of true enlightenment. That is as much as I'm permitted to tell you at the present time. And now will you be so good as to open the outside door? Your daughter is about to ring the doorbell, and it's out of order. Remember?
But how did you... You didn't...
Go and let her in, Lillian. I'm eager to meet Jeannie.
Mama, guess what happened today? Sally Bates fell off the seesaw and Miss Thompson had to drive her home and then... Oh, I didn't know we had company.
This is your Uncle Clarence from India, dear.
Oh.
Yes. She is the very image of her grandmother.
Was that Mother's mother?
Yes, dear. Mama and Uncle Clarence had the same mother, but different fathers.
Oh, then he's not really my uncle. He's only my half-uncle.
I think, little Jeannie, that you will find we have a great deal in common, nevertheless. You will be very close to your Uncle Clarence. Very close.
What do you do those funny things with your eyes?
Never mind, dear. Uncle Clarence is tired from his long journey. You come on upstairs. Mom will help you change for dinner.
All right. See you later, Uncle Clarence.
What's so funny, Doctor?
Oh, William, I do hope that my stay here won't be complicated by your rudeness.
Why did you try to frighten Jeannie just now?
My dear fellow, it's the very furthest thing from my wishes to frighten your child. It is essential to my plan for her that she have confidence in me.
Now, look, get this straight, Clarence. You're welcome in this house as a guest because you're my wife's brother. Your yogi ideas, or whatever they are welcome only so long as you keep them to yourself.
I quite intend to, William. That, too, is part of my plan.
What is this plan you keep talking about?
For the time being, William, I will take your advice and keep that to myself.
Tonight for Suspense, Roma Wines bring you as star Mr. Laird Krieger, whom you have heard in the prologue to Narrative About Clarence by Dwight Hauser and Robert Tallman. Tonight's adventure in Suspense.
Let's leave the scene of our play for a moment and take a little journey. We'll let a bottle of Roma wine serve as Aladdin's lamp. I touch the label and presto, we're all transported to that capital of gaiety, Havana, Cuba. And now we find ourselves in the charming Pan American Club. At a table nearby, an American has just voiced his delight at the uncommon beauty of the scene. Then his Cuban companion responds, "You in America also have much that is uncommon to boast of. Such as this marvelous tasting wine we are enjoying this minute. To enjoy uncommon fine quality, Cuba imports this wine from your own distant California. It is your superb Roma wine. Now just realize what it means when other countries import Roma wines from such great distances. Such international esteem must mean that Roma wines are truly magnificent in quality. And then consider this. You here in America need pay no high import duty, no expensive shipping charges. For these fine Roma wines come from Roma's own wineries in the heart of the rich California wine grape districts. Because so many Americans do realize this good fortune, Roma wines are America's largest selling wines. So why deny yourself this taste delight? Try an inexpensive bottle of tangy, appetizing Roma Sherry, or the hearty Roma Burgundy, or any of the marvelously enjoyable Roma wines. But remember, these days your favorite dealer may be temporarily out of the type you prefer. Then please try again. Ask for R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
And now it is with pleasure that we bring back to our soundstage our star, Laird Cregar, with Hans Conried in Narrative About Clarence, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Well, you see now how I was beginning to feel about my dear half-brother-in-law, Clarence. At first, it was nothing but just pure hatred. I didn't have any cause yet for fear. And then came that day with little Jeannie. Doesn't take much imagination to know what happened before I got home.
Mama, I'm all ready for school now.
Hello, Jeannie.
Oh, hello, Uncle Clarence. Did you see Mama?
Your mother's gone out for a while, but... Well, there's some good in everything, isn't there, Jeannie? This gives us a chance to get acquainted.
Well, I'll be late for school.
Oh, bother the school. I bet Sally Bates wouldn't worry about school if she had an uncle visiting her who'd come all the way from India.
India? Do they really lie on beds of nails and all those things?
No. Those are just the fakirs. They do those stunts for money, like your circus performers over here.
I never saw anything like that at a circus.
Did you ever see anything like this, Jeannie?
Just a ring, isn't it? Like a cat's eye. Oh, it makes me dizzy to look at it.
If you look at it long enough, you'll see all the mysterious secrets of the East.
I'm afraid to look again, Uncle Clarence. That light in it, like a cat's eye, scares me.
Oh, come now. A big girl like you afraid in the broad daylight.
Why do you do those funny things with your eyes?
Perhaps because my eyes see so many wonderful things. Just as yours will, if you will only look at the ring.
Is it magic?
Perhaps. Look and see if it isn't. Look right in the center of the cat's eye. That's it.
It makes me feel sleepy.
That's the way it works. First you feel terribly, terribly sleepy. And then you see the most wonderful things.
First you feel sleepy. And then...
Careful.
What's the matter with her? First you feel
She's coming around now.
And then you say...
She's coming around her.
Jeannie, what's happened to you?
You needn't shout, Mother. I can hear you quite well.
Oh, thank heaven you're all right. She is all right, isn't she, Bill?
Huh? Oh, sure.
Do you feel well enough to go to school, dear?
I shan't be going back to that school, Mother. Miss Thompson bores me.
What kind of talk is that? I think we'll get a doctor for you, young lady.
Please, Father. I will let you know when I'm in need of medical assistance.
Bill, she's not all right.
Just come outside with me, Mother. You go to sleep again now, Jeannie.
Bill, her whole personality has changed. She speaks with that strange accent and a vocabulary like...
Tell me, where was Clarence while you were getting that car out?
Why, in his room, I suppose.
You ever notice that ring he wears?
Yes. It's a cat's eye, isn't it?
Very well-defined cat's eye. Kind of ring you always see on professional hypnotists. It's dead easy to hypnotize a child, you know.
But why would he want to hypnotize Jeannie?
I don't know. All I'm interested in is getting him out of this house as soon as possible. I'm going in there and give him his walking papers right now.
That won't be necessary, William.
Clarence, we didn't hear you come in.
Obviously not. William, I believe I remarked to you on a previous occasion that I hoped my stay here would not be complicated by your rudeness.
It won't be, Clarence. Your stay here is at an end.
Lillian, I want to talk with you alone.
You can say anything you have to say to me in front of my husband, Clarence.
I dare say. It is my wish, however, to speak with you alone.
I've had enough. I'm sorry, Lillian. I don't care whether he's your brother or not. I'm telling him to get out of here and get out now.
I'll call a taxi while you're packing, Clarence.
The irate brother-in-law. What a tiresome exhibition. I'm surprised at a woman of your intelligence becoming involved with such a boor, Lillian.
All right, you asked.
No, don't do it, Bill. Clarence just doesn't understand. He's been away for so long.
I'm sick of hearing your excuses for him. The time's come for a showdown.
No, William. The time has not come for a showdown. Not for a while yet. I will let you know when that time comes.
You'll let me know?
Bill, please. Let me explain to Clarence alone if he likes.
I won't leave you alone with him.
Oh, don't be melodramatic, William.
I'll kill you, so help me.
Bill, please.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll give you 10 minutes, Clarence, no more.
10 minutes will be ample. I think Lillian and I can come to an excellent understanding in 10 minutes.
Those 10 minutes seemed like an eternity. I could hear Lillian's voice, speaking very quietly as if reasoning with him, and his hateful, velvety accents replying. And then quite suddenly there seemed to be only one voice, Clarence's. I looked at my watch. The 10 minutes were up. The door opened. Clarence stood there in the doorway, and he was laughing.
What have you done to her? What have you done?
Lillian was lying on the sofa, unconscious. Her eyes were rolled back hideously so that only the whites of them showed.
She's not dead, William. Only thinking over our conversation.
Bring her out of it, you hear me?
Bring her out of it, or I'll...
What will you do, William?
I'll kill you!
You're not hurting me, William. You're hurting her.
What?
Look at her. See how she writhes in agony. See how she clutches her throat.
You win, Clarence.
Of course. How could you hope, with your poor, undeveloped Occidental mind, to match wits against me, who have penetrated the deepest mysteries of the occult?
Mysteries of the occult? You're nothing but a cheap hypnotist. Any vaudeville mind reader could do the things you do if he was sufficiently lacking in human decency.
Be careful, William. I shouldn't like to have to punish you for your rudeness.
What do you want of us? I'll give you anything I own if you'll just take it and go away.
It's not so easy as all that, William. Because, you see, I want the lives of your wife and child.
I knew then that he was insane. And that realization filled me with hope. It'd be quite simple to call in an alienist and have him committed to an asylum. When Lillian regained consciousness, she insisted on his staying, as I expected. I humored her along, knowing she was acting on his hypnotic suggestions. I was reasonably certain he would do nothing violent that night. His was the slow, sadistic way of murder. When daylight came, I stole quietly out of the house. I dared not risk calling the asylum on our telephone for fear of being overheard. My wife and daughter were still peacefully sleeping when I returned. And now I slept too.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Miller of the State Institute.
Yes, I know. Come in, please, Doctor.
Are you the person who put in the call about...
Yes, it would be better not to speak too loudly, Dr. Miller. We might be overheard, and that might cause difficulties.
Oh, yes, I see. Well, tell me about the patient.
I told him the whole story, word for word, as it had happened. I should have known better. When I'd finished, there was disbelief written all over his face.
Mr. Gilchrist, I don't for a moment doubt that you have an unwelcome relative on your hands who is probably emotionally highly unstable as well. But isn't it possible that you're exaggerating certain aspects of the matter? I mean,
Dr. Miller, I ask you to examine the man and draw your own conclusions as to his sanity.
I'll be glad to. Where is he now?
I think William has probably been talking to you about me, Doctor.
Oh, sit down, won't you?
Thank you. Really, I must apologize for your being inconvenienced this way, Doctor. I try to keep an eye on William, but one must sleep, you know, and, well, occasionally he eludes me and gets out of the house. I suppose he's told you that I'm a hypnotist and that I wish to murder his wife and child.
Why do you think he told me that?
Well, it's always the same story.
Well, why should I believe your story rather than Mr. Gilchrist's?
Oh, mine is a little easier to believe, I should think. But if you wish further proof... Lillian,
Yes, Clarence?
come down here, will you? William's got out again and told that story.
I'll be right down.
And bring Jeannie with you.
You dare bring my daughter into this?
His daughter doesn't know. You'll be tactful, won't you, Doctor?
Yes, of course.
Bill, what is the meaning of this?
Lillian.
Haven't we warned you time and again what might happen if you go out like that?
Lillian, you don't know what you're saying.
This man is your husband, madam?
Yes. He's been under the care of a psychiatrist for several years now.
What?
He seemed to be getting better. I'm sure he's getting better. The doctor said we must expect little lapses.
Oh, she doesn't know what she's saying, Doctor. She's acting under his hypnotic suggestion.
And this young lady?
He hypnotized her, too.
Is that true?
I don't know what that means, hypnotize. Daddy's always saying it, but he never says what it means.
Well, this seems to clear up the situation pretty thoroughly. If you have any further trouble, Mr. Gilchrist, let me know.
You think I'm crazy?
No, I don't. I'm sure that your wife is quite right, Mr. Gilchrist. You're getting better every day.
He was insane, and diabolically insane. I had to face the unalterable fact. There was only one way to cope with him, and that was to kill him. But I had to do it while my wife and daughter were out of the house. I couldn't risk facing him with a gun. I didn't trust myself not to fall under his hypnotic spell. The way I decided on was, well, it was the best way I could think of. When I'd finished my preparations, I waited for Clarence.
Good evening, William.
Clarence, for the last time...
William, I'm very tired, and I have a very busy day ahead of me tomorrow. I have no wish to repeat that very tiresome conversation with which you invariably begin, Clarence, for the last time.
This is the last time, Clarence. Tonight, nothing will stop me. Tonight, I am going to kill you.
Please, don't make another unnecessary scene, William. You know that trying to hurt me only hurts your wife.
Oh, she's no longer hypnotized, Clarence. You stayed away too long. She and Jeannie are safely out of your reach now.
What makes you so sure of that? Are you sure of anything anymore? Dr. Miller thought you were insane. Are you quite sure you're not?
I'm crazy enough to know that I've got to kill you.
Well, do it quietly, William. I'm going straight to bed and to sleep, and I don't want to be disturbed. Good night.
Just a minute, Clarence.
Yes?
Maybe you'll win again. I don't know, but just in case you don't.
Yes?
Tell me, why do you say you want to kill my wife and child?
Because my mother meant more to me than anything in the world. She died in giving birth to this silly, shallow person you call your wife. I have hated her since the day she was born. And I hate the child because, having no right to life, she commits the sacrilege of inheriting my mother's beauty. They must both be destroyed, the murderer and the imposter.
You are mad. Madder than I ever dreamed you were.
Am I? Did I really say what you think you just heard me say? Or is it only part of your insanity? Think it over, William. Good night.
I had everything ready. The heavy boards to nail across the door, the cotton waste, and a gallon of benzene. The shutters over the window of his room I'd already nailed shut and barred. As I nailed the boards across the door, I felt as if I were driving nails into his top.
William, stop it! You don't know what you're doing! Lillian and Jeannie are upstairs. They came in the back way. William!
Where are your great powers now, Clarence?
William, you fool!
Can the secrets of the East help you now? You're trapped, Clarence.
You're out of your mind, William!
In a moment, the whole house will be in flames. You'll be burned alive.
You don't know what you're doing, William.
Listen, Clarence, listen. I'm striking the match now. You smell the smoke, Clarence? Never mind. You will in a moment. Oh, I wish you could see the flames now, Clarence. They're roaring up the stairwell.
You don't know what you're doing.
Beautiful.
William, you fool.
I'll have to leave you now, Clarence. It's getting too warm in here for me. But you should be used to the heat, though.
After all those years in India. And I laughed. I guess the relief from all that tension. Well, that's the story, Doctor. Then I must have fainted or something from the smoke. I don't remember anything after that till I woke up in this place.
And what about your wife and daughter?
Oh, that's just it. I haven't seen them since that afternoon, and that's why I've got to get out of here. I've got to find them. Can't you understand that?
Yes, I can understand that very well.
Will you talk to someone, the head of this place, and tell him that and let me out? I shouldn't be locked up here in an institution.
Yes, I'll talk to him, Bill. That's a promise. I'll do it right now. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Doc.
Pardon me, the head's office, Dr.
Dr. Crossman. You'll find him right through there.
Thank you. Oh, pardon me, Dr. Crossman?
Yes? Oh, how do you do, sir? Have you found my little sanitarium interesting?
Yes, indeed. By the way, most unusual case. I've just been talking
Yes, I know. To poor William. Bill, that is, number 27.
Yes, but...
I'm sorry that you had to be inconvenienced that way, sir. We do our best to keep the garrulous patients well out of a visiting doctor's way, but... accidents will happen.
I'm glad I ran into him, Dr. Crossman. His story interests me very much. He doesn't strike me as a homicidal lunatic.
No, he's not. This idea of his that he committed a murder is simply a fantasy.
Are you absolutely sure of that?
Of course. Because, well, you see, I am Clarence, the wicked brother-in-law in his story.
You?
He began to develop these extraordinary symptoms during my stay at his home when I first returned from India. Parts of his story, you see, are quite accurate.
I see.
It's a pity, of course. He was doing quite nicely under treatment until his wife and child were burned to death so tragically in the fire that destroyed their home. I'm afraid that event, on top of his previous delusions, unhinged him for good.
And where were you during the fire, Dr. Crossman?
Oh, I dined out that evening. When I returned, it was all over.
Well, I certainly shall write this case up as one of the most interesting I've ever run across.
Oh, must you, Doctor? I mean, poor chap, I feel he's entitled at least to some privacy.
Have you any personal reasons for wanting to keep this case quiet, sir?
Yes, I have. Do you see this scar on my face?
That's a burn, wasn't it? A very nasty burn, too.
Precisely, Doctor. And a very nasty coincidence.
And so closes narrative about Clarence, starring Laird Cregar with Hans Conried, tonight's tale of Suspense. Laird Cregar is currently being seen in the 20th Century Fox production, The Lodger.
We sincerely hope you enjoyed the performance of Mr. Cregar and that of the whole cast tonight in our Roma suspense play. And here's a thought. To discover the enjoyment these suspense programs offer, you first had to sample one. And so you must first sample one of the many delicious Roma wines to discover for yourself their wonderful taste and quality, the excellence that makes Roma America's largest selling wines. You'll discover, as of other millions before you, that Roma wines are super quality, are super tasting, and are super easy on your pocketbook, too, costing only pennies a glass. Why put off this taste treat another day? Be sure you get R-O-M-A, Roma wines. Made in California for enjoyment throughout the world.
This is Laird Cregar. It is my very great pleasure to tell you that next week the star who will keep you in suspense will be Joseph Cotton.
Suspense is produced and directed by William Spear. Don't forget then next Monday, same time, for Joseph Cotton in Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.